Hey man, here's what happens on episode 1 of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, the Diamond Ray of Disappearance. Skeletor's hanging out at Snake Mountain, and he summons a bunch of his evil helpers to show them the Diamond Ray of Disappearance that he plans to use on He-Man to make him disappear for good. Trapjaw flies over to the castle and starts blowing shit up, which pisses off Teela and gets her out and on the case with some of the Royal Guard. Prince Adam takes notice too, and sneaks off to transform into He-Man. Teela eventually catches up to Trapjaw, but he chomps off the end of her sword. So He-Man throws him. Meanwhile, Skeletor disappears the Sorceress, King Randor, Queen Marlena, and Duncan. So Teela, Orko, Ram-Man, Stratos, He-Man, and Battle-Cat chase down Skeletor and his minions. Stratos wraps up Evil Lyn. He-Man slashes a hover robot. Ram-Man rams some hover robots. He-Man flings Triclops. Skeletor drops the diamond. He-Man picks up the diamond and crushes it. And everyone is undisappeared. Hey man, here's what happens on the Cosmic Comet. Skeletor joins hands with Evil Lyn and Beastman in order to radiate their evil up into the sky and possess a comet. After learning of the threat, the good guys talk to the comet wizard Zagreus, who tells them he accidentally blew up the evil comet's friend, so he doesn't mess with comets anymore. Fearing Zagreus might help He-Man undo his comet plans, Skeletor commands the comet to create monsters to attack Zagreus. 3 comet monsters show up, so does He-Man, who explodes one with a punch and the other 2 with a swinging toss. Pieces of the comet monsters fall to the ground and Orko thinks they might be useful, so he vacuums them up with his shirt. Zagreus believes the evil comet might calm down if it's given a friend, but they need comet pieces to create it, which Orko has. So the heroes imbue the new comet with goodness, and Zagreus is convinced to use his comet magic again, sending the comet flying to meet its friend. The 2 comets are reunited in friendship and love, and they blast off into space together, sending Skeletor spiraling out of control. Hey man, here's what happens on the Shaping Staff. In an effort to entertain the royal family, Orko uses his magical demon dust and summons Majestra, the traveling magician. Almost immediately, she steals the show and wows her audience with conjurations and kingly music. For her final act, she makes King Randor disappear, then brings him right back so he can eat a chicken leg. But wait, the real King Randor was teleported to a dungeon. Majestra and Fake King are actually Evil Lyn and Beastman. Evil Lyn transforms King Randor into a goat, Orko into a cricket, Teela into a frog, and He-Man into a golden statue. Meanwhile, near Castle Grayskull, Skeletor creates Faker to trick the sorceress into putting herself in harm's way. Evil Lyn turns her into a tree, but she breaks the spell and turns He-Man back to normal. Faker lunges at He-Man but misses and falls into a pit. He-Man snaps the Shaping Staff, returns everyone to normal, and Evil Lyn tries to use the broken staff but turns herself into a strange creature. Hey man, here's what happens on Disappearing Act. Orko accidentally disappears the Power Sword. Then Skeletor sneaks into the palace and freezes Adam and Orko before turning Adam invisible and kidnapping him. Orko, Duncan, and Cringer ask the sorceress for advice, and she says the Power Sword has been sent back in time, so she opens the time corridor for Orko and Cringer. Meanwhile, Adam is held captive in the Banshee jungle. But after Skeletor leaves, Adam uses a special beeper to signal Stratos for help. Back in time, Orko and Cringer find a giant whittling with the Power Sword. Orko blinds the giant with a big hat, causing him to drop the sword. Cringer snatches it up, gives it to Orko, and they're back through the time corridor. Finally, the beeper's message gets to Stratos and he learns of Adam's location, which he passes on to Man-at-Arms. Orko then delivers the Power Sword to Adam, which he promptly uses to become He-Man. He punches his way to freedom, finds Skeletor and blows him away with Power Breath, and punts Skeletor's Freeze Ray way out yonder. Hey man, here's what happens on She-Demon of Phantos. Duncan and Adam test out new photanium weapons at Queen Elmora's palace on the moon of Phantos. The queen doesn't seem to be feeling well and asks Adam and Duncan to leave her be. Once they're gone, Skeletor is revealed to be coercing the queen into working with him. He's also stolen Eternia's photanium and replaced it with worthless junk. Then Skeletor transforms the beautiful queen into a nasty old hag. Back on Eternia, Duncan and Teela test out the new weapons from Phantos, and they're shit. So Adam and Duncan visit the sorceress. She says Elmora is working with Skeletor against her will. He-Man, Man-at-Arms, Battle-Cat, Stratos, and Lizard-Man go to Phantos, and Elmora summons a plant monster to attack them. But Teela sneaks up and blasts it away. After some adventure, He-Man makes it to Elmora's throne room. However, an evil spell makes Elmora see Skeletor when she looks at He-Man. So she binds both He-Man and Skeletor in magical chains, knowing only He-Man will break free. He-Man tells Skeletor to change Elmora back or stay in prison forever. So Skeletor undoes his magic, and He-Man releases Skeletor. Hey man, here's what happens on Teela's quest. Prince Adam and his mother, Queen Marlena, watch memories of her crash landing on Eternia. Teela's curious to try the memory projector too, as she hopes to find out who her mother is, but there's not a single clue in her mind, just memories of her father, Man-at-Arms. So Teela visits the Oracle of the Crystal Sea and asks him, but the meeting's interrupted, and Teela's captured by Merman, who plans to use the Crimson Pearl to summon the sea demon Bakul and sacrifice Teela. HeMan busts in just in time to throw his sword and cut Teela down from captivity. She swings to safety and Bakul gets butthurt. Upon a nearby mountaintop, Merman's Crimson Pearl spear is stolen by the sorceress and dropped into a chasm, breaking his control over Bakul. Lucky for Merman, HeMan's nearby and tosses him clear. Then HeMan leg presses the crystal mountain and brings it down on Bakul. Finally, Teela learns that the sorceress is her mother, her biological father is dead, and Duncan is her adoptive father. Also, one day she'll become the new sorceress, but she can't know the truth right now, so the sorceress erases her memory. Hey man, here's what happens on the Curse of the Spellstone. Skeletor and Evil Lyn steal the Spellstone from the Temple of the Fire People and use it to create devastating storms across Eternia. Evil Lyn then transforms herself into an old lady and appears in a village where Duncan and Teela are lending assistance and attacks them with lightning. Evil Lyn tells the villagers the royal family are to blame for the storms, so old Zack offers up the Creeping Horrack. Evil Lyn reveals her true identity and unleashes the monstrous growth on the palace. Left unchecked, the Creeping Horrack would grow over the entire structure and suffocate everyone inside. They try fire, they try to fight it with swords, they try to run, and Man-at-Arms even tries blasting it, but nothing seems to work. Outside, Jamar has seen enough. He restrains Evil Lyn while old Zack steals away the Spellstone. HeMan shows up just in time to grab the Spellstone and hurl it directly at the Creeping Horrack. Skeletor, Trapjaw, and Evil Lyn escape, and the Creeping Horrack is no more. Hey man, here's what happens on the Time Corridor. Darkspy gives Skeletor the Wheel of Infinity, and the sorceress warns Adam and friends that he's taken the wheel back in time and constructed a fortress on the exact location that will one day become Castle Grayskull. When the wheel detonates in the future, it'll destroy Grayskull. Sorceress sends the heroes back in time, and the Snake Clan leads them to Skeletor's stronghold. There, HeMan smacks a Homer that destroys Triclops' catapult. Duncan bolos an Ape Clanner. HeMan tosses a dude down a well, and Zalora of the Snake Clan trips a guy bigly. Skeletor's had it, so he puts Zalora to sleep and kidnaps her. HeMan and his buddies follow Skeletor to Dragosaur Isle on a raft, where they encounter big-ass plants and big-ass bugs, as well as Fangman in his only series appearance. HeMan makes him look like a chump. Finally, HeMan frees Zalora from her cage and finds the Wheel of Infinity, which he spins really fast, speeding up its detonation time before punching it into the sky to explode. Hey man, here's what happens on the Dragon Invasion. Skeletor obtains the Dragon Pearl and sends Beastman out to drop dragon eggs all over Eternia. One egg lands in the royal palace and quickly grows into a ferocious adult dragon thanks to Skeletor's growth serum. Like the other hatchlings, it's also under Beastman's control. HeMan shows up and tosses the dragon, and Duncan zaps him with a stasis ray. Meanwhile, Skeletor and his minions, including Jitsu in his only series appearance, go to Grayskull and trap the sorceress inside the Dragon Pearl, then use it to open the Jaw Bridge and take control of the castle. Additionally, Skeletor uses the Dragon Pearl to create an evil force field around Castle Grayskull, which stops even HeMan from getting in. So HeMan finds Beastman at Snake Mountain and Teela freezes him, which releases the dragons from Beastman's influence and makes them friendly. Then the dragons get together and roast up Skeletor's force field. Skeletor escapes back to Snake Mountain, but HeMan's waiting for him. Skeletor drops the Dragon Pearl when he's startled by a dragon, and the nice dragon saves it from falling into the lava but then incinerates it anyway, releasing the sorceress from her prison. Hey man, here's what happens on A Friend in Need. Evil sorcerer Jarvan escapes imprisonment and transforms himself into an old lady, offering bravery potion to Teela's timid friend Alina, who gladly accepts. Jarvan also gives Alina a ring she can use to contact him. Next time Teela sees Alina, she's up on top of a high wall and confidently flips down to the ground to show off. Later, Duncan demonstrates Zikran's transmutator device, which does all sorts of shit, and Jarvan wants it, so he continues getting Alina hooked on bravery potion. And after her next fix, she takes her dad's air car out for a spin and almost kills Prince Adam. Good thing he had his sword, as he becomes HeMan on the way down and then catches the air car before it crashes to the ground. Alina gets sad again and wants more potion, but Jarvan wants the transmutator device first. Alina gets it for him, and Jarvan reveals his true self and tries to shrink the palace, but HeMan pushes back against the transmutator and it explodes. Finally, Duncan uses Alina's communication ring to bring Jarvan into the palace. Jarvan tries to escape, but Alina chases him down stone sober and captures him using only her bravery from within. Hey man, here's what happens on Masks of Power. Prince Adam discovers the City of the Ancients, and Skeletor's robot bird sends the news back to Snake Mountain to Skeletor. Just then, these goofballs named Aaron and Una appear and ask to serve Skeletor, so he tests their reflexes with a trap door and they survive. Their first mission from Skeletor is to retrieve the Masks of Power from the City of the Ancients. However, the masks end up being tools of possession and the evil Deimos and Torella take over their bodies. Adam sees the horrible event and changes into He-Man. Torella doesn't like this, and Aru, the protector of the masks, is brought forth. So He-Man tosses Orko to the floor above and he throws a rope down to He-Man and Duncan, who escape the beast. Meanwhile, Deimos traps Skeletor at Snake Mountain so he can search for the Sword of the Ancients, and Skeletor gives away Deimos and Torella's location in exchange for freedom. Beneath Snake Mountain, Deimos and Torella find the Sword of the Ancients, the second most powerful sword in Eternia, but He-Man stops Deimos from taking it. Then the Sword of the Ancients combines with He-Man's power sword. Deimos and Torella disappear, and Aaron and Una decide to be good guys. Hey man, here's what happens on Evil Lynn's plot. Skeletor orders Merman and Beastman to break into the Widget Fortress, but Lara pours grease all over the wall they're climbing and they fall down. Then Kando fires a cannon that blasts a He-Man signal up into the sky, which He-Man sees and follows. While He-Man's on his way, Skeletor removes the Widget Fortress door with magic and the bad guys enter. Skeletor tells the Widgets he wants their Cordite crystals, but they say no. He-Man finally arrives and sends Skeletor packing. The Widgets tell He-Man about their Cordite, and he reveals his breastplate's made of it. Back at Snake Mountain, Evil Lynn's plot is to disguise herself and trick the Widgets into letting her see the Cordite, which Squinch does. She snatches it up, laughs in Squinch's face, shows her true form, and zooms off to the volcano cave as a ball of fire. He-Man goes to stop Evil Lyn and Skeletor and is confronted by a conjured-up demon of stone. The demon socks him a good one, giving Skeletor time to create his own breastplate, which he puts on and momentarily becomes nearly as powerful as He-Man. However, He-Man punches out the demon, grabs up Skeletor, and then crunches and crumbles his new breastplate.
Hey man, here's what happens on Like Father, Like Daughter. Teela and Duncan are working on a super lasso launcher when He-Man walks in and tells Duncan about a dangerous threat at Stardika Fortress. Teela wants to tag along, but Duncan says she needs to stay behind and work on the lasso. She gets it working perfectly, and then she decides to head out to Stardika. He-Man and Duncan arrive at the abandoned fortress and it's all too quiet, but soon Beastman sends a dragon out to capture Man-at-Arms and the bad guys take him captive. All the while, an army of robotic serpentoids is unleashed on He-Man. He throws them into rock walls, smashes them with boulders, and more, but they just keep coming. Teela flies in and tosses the lasso down, but Beastman intercepts it. Then he lassos his own damn wrist together and drops the device down to He-Man, who uses it to round up all the Serpentoids. Inside the fortress, Teela blasts the Serpentoid machine with her freeze ray. She also takes out Trapjaw and Beastman. Finally, He-Man busts through a wall and finds Duncan. Then he grabs a bomb that was about to blow and throws it up into the sky where it safely explodes. Hey man, here's what happens on Colossal Awakes. Skeletor uses his collector ship to turn Duncan to stone, but he doesn't stop there. He zaps others, and with another beam reanimates and controls them, and sicks them on the good guys. They're tough, but brittle, exploding on impact with a forceful enough blow. Battlecat dodges a lion's pounce. Stratos drops a potted plant on one dude's head. Ram-Man rams a son of a bitch, and Orko sends one into the drink. So Skeletor flies off to regroup. Duncan has to be unstatued by sundown, or he's stuck. Skeletor flies back and statues up a couple guards, Ram-Man, and Orko too. Meanwhile, He-Man collects some fire jewels for the sorceress, then crunches and crumbles them up so she can create a thingamajig to put on Skeletor's statue beam controls that'll reverse the curse. And the next time Skeletor tries to blast the heroes, he accidentally changes them back to normal. Skeletor still awakens Colossal, but before he attacks Grayskull, Duncan ties his ankles up, Orko blinds him, Ram-Man doesn't do shit, and Stratos helps push his big butt down to the ground so He-Man can deliver the knockout punch, reducing Colossal to a pile of pebbles. Hey man, here's what happens on a beastly sideshow. Beastman, disguised as a carny, uses one of his attractions called Pretty Kitty to grab the attention of Cringer, who becomes immediately smitten. Later that night, Pretty Kitty lures Cringer outside the palace, and he follows her right into Beastman's trap. Damn! Orko delivers a ransom note to Prince Adam, so he heads to Snake Mountain as He-Man. There he's snatched up by the Shadow Beast, but Teela pops in and calms him down and he releases He-Man. Not long after, Cringer falls from his teetering prison, but He-Man catches him and sets him down just nice. Poor Teela falls for a trapdoor and the Octobeast delivers her to Beastman and Evil Lyn. He-Man shows up and flings Beastman across the room. Then he runs over and pretzels Evil Lyn's staff into handcuffs. Finally, as the walls are closing in, He-Man throws some pepper at Skeletor, which causes him to sneeze, drop his staff, and hit the bricks. Then He-Man snaps Teela free. Hey man, here's what happens on Reign of the Monsters. Stratos and his sister Delora, in her only series appearance, lead the annual avian fireworks celebration when the Torgs show up and crash the party. King Von spots Stratos in his periscope and sends out his ship's little grabby claw to kidnap him. He-Man and friends take the attack track to rescue Stratos, but they're confronted by a cavern monster. So He-Man stops the damn car and throws the beast aside with a spinning toss. Then Skeletor comes out from a trick wall and introduces a whole gang of Stratos guys. Delora flies up and tells her brother to come to his senses. He resists Skeletor's mind control and the other imposter dudes disappear. Work like a charm, Delora. Uh-oh, Skeletor uses the Staff of Avian to unleash Mulcrum, the Prince of Destruction. Mulcrum uses wind breath to blow our heroes into an alcove and then seals them in. Then he takes Skeletor to Castle Grayskull. He-Man punches through the alcove wall and then heads to Grayskull himself, where he uses the battle ram to stop Mulcrum. Stratos flies by and lends the Staff of Avian to He-Man, but Mulcrum zaps it, so He-Man throws him and launches the staff into space, where it explodes and puts Mulcrum back to sleep. Hey man, here's what happens on Daimar the Demon. Orko's bored and wants a friend to play with, so he summons little Daimar the Demon. Immediately, a weird energy sweeps across Eternos and makes a complete mess of the royal dinner. Duncan thinks Orko's to blame, and he finds proof in Orko's magic book that's open to the entry on Daimar, the Lord of the Dark Dimension. That's no good. Strange energy hovers over Snake Mountain too, and it turns Skeletor's staff into a snake. Skeletor wants to harness that power, so he sends Evil Lyn to Eternos, where the power levels are off the charts. She materializes in the palace, casts a freeze spell, and then takes Orko's magic book back to Snake Mountain. Meanwhile, Daimar and Orko decide it's nap time, so Daimar puts himself in a cocoon and Orko leans up against it for a rest. But when Orko wakes up, Daimar's gone, and he puts He-Man in a rainbow stasis and plans to unleash hell. Luckily, Orko stops by and begs Daimar to choose friendship over evil. Skeletor and Evil Lyn want Daimar to join their side, but Daimar chooses goodness and hands the baddies off to He-Man, who tosses Skeletor and Evil Lyn over the horizon. Orko gives Daimar a hug, and the demon goes back to his dark dimension. Hey man, here's what happens on Creatures from the Tar Swamp. Prince Adam's cousin, Lady Edwina, visits the palace. Orko has a crush on her and gives her a fancy brooch, but she gives it back. Adam steps in to let Edwina know Orko's a hero and tells the story of their first meeting, when Orko used a magic amulet to rescue a young Adam and Cringer from the Tar Swamp. Too bad Orko lost the amulet. Speaking of, Orko decides to go searching for it, but Skeletor snatches him up in the Tar Swamp. Then Evil Lyn pours a potion into the swampy waters and resurrects the formerly extinct Dragoon, which Skeletor uses to attack the palace and put the royal family in jail. Soon, Orko's in prison too, but he uses magic to transport himself and Edwina to freedom. Edwina wanders off and the Dragoon shows up. Luckily, He-Man's nearby and punches the monster's foot, sending him running until he crashes into the palace throne room. Orko spots his old amulet on the monster's back, yanks it free, and uses it to undo all the bad stuff that happened in this episode, so the Dragoon disappears. Then King Randor tells Edwina to get lost, and on her way out, Orko scares the shit out of her with a Dragoon head. Hey man, here's what happens on Quest for He-Man. Trapjaw lures He-Man into an ambush where Skeletor erases his memory and sends him to another realm. By the time help arrives, Skeletor and Evil Lyn disappear. The sorceress contacts Zodak in his first appearance, and he gives Orko a wand that'll guide the way to He-Man. On planet Tranus, He-Man's sword shot out of his hand by Bird Lady Gleedle, who doesn't know if she can trust him, and they're being watched by the evil bunny man Plundor, who wants He-Man to work for him. Through the time corridor, Orko's wand leads to the planet Tranus, where they find He-Man's sword and Cringer sniffs out his scent. Over at Gleedle's house, she explains how Plundor destroyed the environment on Tranus. Then some Rabots bust in and use sleeping gas on He-Man and Gleedle. They're woken up at Plundor's factory just before Orko and crew arrive. Orko returns He-Man's sword, which restores his memory. Plundor tries to send the energy he's stolen from the planet out into space, but He-Man hops on the rocket, performs a double axe handle on it, jumps off, and then watches it explode over Tranus, bringing the planet back to life. Hey man, here's what happens on Dawn of Dragoon. Orko goes to his homeworld of Trolla with his lady friend Driel. The sorceress gives He-Man the Sphere of Size that makes him and Battle Cat small enough to take a mini portal to Trolla. But when they come out the other side, they're powered down into Prince Adam and Cringer. When a water snake attacks, Adam tries to power up, but he can't become He-Man, so he uses his flamethrower, but that just turns into water. Adam runs around some trees and gets the snake all twisted up. Meanwhile, Skeletor's monster Dragoon kidnaps Driel and threatens to drain all the Trollans of their energy. He-Man arrives after speaking his incantation backwards and engages Dragoon in some fisticuffs. Dragoon tries to smash He-Man with a boulder, but messes up and sends himself flying off a cliff. Lucky for Dragoon, He-Man pulls him to safety and inspires a change of heart in the monster. With the day saved, Orko and Driel show each other their faces, a sign of true love in the world of Trolla. Then He-Man and Battle Cat come back to Eternia, just in the nick of time. Stay here and watch another Super Divorce video, man.